Shalom, Israel. So the question I was asked was, what is the difference between the Hebrew marriages and the marriages of today's society? All right, the first thing you have to go to the scriptures. The entire Bible revolves around the Most High. So if the spiritual marriages or the spiritual kingdom is about a father, next in line is the son to the father. So what would come next? An inheritance. So you have the Father, the Most High, his Son, and the inheritance, which is the kingdom, would be given to him. So it's the same thing with us. The man, everything would revolve around the man, right? So the man would have all these inheritances, these lands, whatever resources, right? Then the woman would want to be with a man that has something to pass on to their sons, right? So that's the first thing. Even when you go to the scriptures, what are the main things that the woman always want to do for their husband? To give him an heir, right? Because everyone knows how the inheritance or the law of the inheritance goes with the son. You don't give your land and your resources to your daughter. Why? Because your daughter does not carry on the lineage of the father. For example, if my last name is, say, James, and I have a sister by the name of James, when I have a child, that child will name James as my father. If my sister has a child, that child is going to be what? Of another man's seed. So if my sister gets a portion of the land from my father, what is going to happen to that inheritance? It's going to go to a different seed, right? So this is why the woman would naturally go to a man, because the man would have that inheritance. Well, everything is reversed now, because what? They took away all the resources from us as black men. So now, and the women now have what? Better jobs and so forth, so they can buy things, and then they live under that, belief, or I call it illusion, right? That this is the way, just because the system put them up here and push the men down here, right? So everything has been reversed with the psychology that this society done to our people, right? So the next thing is definition of marriages. Marriage in this society means anything that has to do with two or more people, right? So marriage for this society, for example, they can call two men together marriage, two women together a marriage, a man and a beast, a woman and a beast, a marriage. I think there are some places now where they say they have that law where if you go with a certain animal, you have to. All right. Marriage, even when you get into the scriptures, when it says if a man lie with another man, you notice what it says? It did not say if a man marry, because when two men go together, it is still not considered marriage. Marriage is a union between what? Two opposite things. For example, if you have two right foot of shoe, you don't say you have a pair of shoe. It has to be opposite. You have to have a right foot and a left foot, and then you can say you have a pair of shoe, right? So two men together is not considered marriage. That's why it says lie with, right? So that's not a marriage, but in this society it is considered a marriage. Everything can be a marriage in this society, right? In the scriptures, there are only two types of marriages that are that we are supposed to do, or that have ever existed in our culture according to our laws. What? One man, one wife, or one man and more than one wife, right? So polygyny and monogamy, those are the only two types of marriages that we have in our culture. For example, when you look at polygamy, right? Polygamy, a woman can have more than one partner, right? No, it does not serve a purpose like polygyny, because if I have a wife, she's not able to have a child, right? And I don't have a son to pass on my inheritance to. Guess what? There's a purpose greater than my carnal desires greater than just the sex. Now I can have a second wife to raise up seed, you understand, and not putting away my first wife, right? So this is still serving something greater than me, right? Polygamy, if a woman has a child with this man and go and have a child with another man, they are two different seeds. The scripture talks about mixing seeds, right? So it does not serve that purpose. It does not have a function in our culture. So the types of marriages are very different. Now also in the Hebrew culture, you would go to the father to see that, say, okay, I want to marry your daughter, or so forth. And then the father would approve it. Today, the parents are not involved. You go there, you meet a woman, or a woman meets a man, will you marry me? And you do it, right? Now, it is not really based upon anything. Like in the Hebrew, what is it based upon? Okay, a covenant. So, okay, you go through the moral principles, the standards, what is expected of the man, what is expected of the woman, and all of these things. And then the covenant is made within, meaning with who you are as a person, the responsibilities, right? So a man is expected to be a man, right? So you get into a woman's life, guess what? You have to be active for her to be receptive, right? You would do all of these things that you need to do in the home. So what? Your gardening, the household chores, all of these things, it is giving it a meaning, right? It's not just, okay, you're going to see somebody for the weekend or once a month or anything like that. It is something deeper. And then you are giving to that woman, you are giving to the household as the leader. You stand on that responsibility. The woman is receiving all of that. So what? She's going to be more nurturing. So she's going to want to give back. So it is based upon a covenant. In this type of society, everything based upon how I feel about the person or how she feels about me. So it's revolve around what? Our emotions. Emotions come and go. So if you have a love that comes and goes, guess what is going to happen to it? It is going to be selective or with conditions, right? So if I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling certain ways about this person, I can divorce her or she can divorce me because of feelings, right? These things come and go, right? But this society, that's their way of dealing with divorces. In the Hebrew culture, you don't divorce because you will lose attraction to the person, or the person does not look the way he or she used to look, because this changes, the body changes, they are not real. That's a different perception still. When I say real, I mean it keeps changing, it's not consistent. But the spirit is what it is. It never changes, it never alters. The mind alters, the mind changes. So you cannot build a relationship based on how you think, feel, perceive, and so forth, right? So the divorces, the reasons for divorces, they are very different. You can divorce for anything in this culture. In the Bible, you'd only divorce for fornication, adultery, and things of such. If you have a person who is really disobedient, not following, like, because it's going to escalate. It can escalate. And people who have been with toxic partners will understand what I mean. So yes, you can start off doing nice things together, but when you're seeing the real intentions of that person, yes, you can divorce, because no, you can be harmed, you can be hurt, you can be killed, right? So that's using wisdom. That's very different. But the primary reasons were fornication, adultery, which is kind of like one and the same thing, right? Now, the marriage in this society is based upon a ring that you wear. So for example, you'll hear a person say, oh, my husband is abroad for 6 months working, or my wife is abroad working. That is not marriage just because you're wearing a ring, right? So what they call common law marriage in this culture that they look down upon, that is our marriage, right? It's not revolved around a ring. It's about two people being together, committed to a purpose, and you're serving that purpose. right? Because even if you look at the other nations, when the husband goes to work in a foreign country, guess what? Their wives and children get to go with them. When a black person goes to work in a foreign country, your wife does not have the privilege to go. So what? They're opening doors for adultery, right? That's what it is. So there's a big difference. It's not about the ring, but the sex is what consecrates the marriage. It starts there, and then you continue to pursue the person after by what? Being involved in her life, she being involved in his life, right? So the pursuing is what prolong or carry on the marriage, serving a higher purpose than yourself, right? So now in this marriage, in this society, apart from the husband and the wife, who else is involved in it? Your government. So the government can say this or that. They have a say in your marriages. And this is why you see a lot of black men now, they are really seeing the what do you call it, like injustice or the powerlessness, lack of power. They cannot do certain things. And also women don't understand that sometimes men just sit back and allow them to be how they want to be, right? Because you know what? Okay, we had a hard day at work. Okay, she says this, I'm not even listening, right? So this is where a lot of relationships reach. So the women are under the illusion that, oh, I have all this power. Oh, my husband doesn't say I can do anything I want. No, we just don't have that time, right? We know that we don't have the power, right? And this is what a lot of women don't understand about disrespect. When you threaten your man about calling the police or somebody with a higher authority, you don't understand how disrespectful that is. You understand, especially if you're living in certain countries where the police deals with black men very different. Like I'm in the Caribbean, if a woman call the police on her husband, it might not be so terrible. But a lot of you, when you call police, is not gonna be someone coming with this complexion. All right, so you know how the outcome can go. All right, so don't let all of that illusion get to you, because you don't understand that a foolish woman tears down her own house, and that's what you're doing. You don't call somebody in a higher authority on your husband. That's very disrespectful. All right, now in the Hebrew marriage, who is the head? Who is the head of man? Who is the head of the marriage? The Most High. Everything is based upon his morality, not how I feel, not how she feels, but his morality. And this is why you see we get together what? With a covenant. They will understand, okay, this you can do, this you cannot do. So, okay, I am the man, I'm expected to do what? Feed her spirit. That is something I have to do. That is a non-negotiable in the marriage. Your husband is supposed to teach you, right? At least somewhat. And he's supposed to be your filter. So even if he's not a teacher, not every man has the ability to teach in that sense, but he has to have some form of wisdom or some level of understanding that if there's a thought out there, it can filter through him, right? So even if the woman is going to a temple or something where another priest is teaching, the man can be there too, because men are more connected to logics than women. Women are more connected to an emotional nature. So they really filter things through how they feel, how they perceive, right? We are more logical. Logic and women are kind of incompatible. They don't work together, right? So, yeah, the husband is expected to do that. You understand? It's just like the man is expected to provide, is expected to be masculine. However, we know that everything has changed, right? So even if a man is very good, like with his hands, working with the hands, if something is broken in the home, he can fix it. Guess what? If he does not have a certain financial standard or certain appearance with the jacket, the tie, to look a certain way, drive a certain vehicle, guess what? He is looked at as low value. While the man wearing the suit, looking all clean, guess what? He might be making less than that man who is handy, because he has a trade. You understand? When the economic collapse or anything should go wrong, guess who's going to survive? What are you going to do with your jacket and tie? what you're gonna be doing with paperwork, right? So it's very different with the Hebrew marriages and the marriages of this society. The women have the power. It's not like they even make it equal. The women have the power. They're above the men, right? And like I said, in the Hebrew, the men always, everything revolves around the men here, but it does not make the woman inferior, right? So those are some differences between our culture with the marriages in the Hebrew and this society definitions of marriages.